Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Omar here once again with Meet a Geek, and today I am joined by Leslie Chasnoff. How are you doing, Leslie?
I'm great. How are you, Omar?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So you and I have known each other for years. Like, we've known each other for a while, and I think we met each other way back when I think it was before the Codeup days, right?
Yeah. I started hanging out at Geekdom, I think it was 2013, and showed up to the original Fermented Fridays in the Monk's Toolbox office with Jeremy and Zach. Just got to know the community, attended a 3-day startup, and then got hooked, and then did Codeup and all the things. So.
Yeah, so let's talk about who you are. So who are you, Leslie? So, what are you all about?
Yeah, so I'm Leslie Chasnoff. Currently, I'm the Geekdom Programs Manager. So I'm managing our CivTechSA program. I just started managing that in May, which was interesting to start a new job in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And now I'm also managing our Incubator program and the Pre-accelerator program. Also kind of in the middle of rethinking of how we approach our mentorship programming as well, which is exciting. But outside of that, I am from San Antonio, Texas, grew up here on the outskirts in Universal City, went to Texas State University and studied communication design. So I have a background in graphic design, communication, all that good stuff. And when I'm not working, I do a lot of yoga. I actually did a yoga certification a couple years ago to teach. And I'm a stepmom. I have 2 dogs and a cat. We live in a gorgeous part of town, Monte Vista. And I'm kind of a homebody most of the time. So we get outdoors a lot. We hike, we bike, I picked up golf last year, which has been fun.
Oh, wow.
Tennis here and there. We like just being active and work in the yard a lot, cook a lot, all those things.
A real Renaissance woman here. You're to say, you're like, I also sculpt, I also invent flying machines, and I also, have a farm.
I wish.
Like, I created my own type of bean. It has more fiber and excellent amount of protein, amazingly. No, that's really cool, Leslie. I mean, you do a lot, and you've done a lot. You've had a very, I guess what was it, like a storied career, right? You've done a lot of different things across, different fields. So can you kind of walk me through? So you and I went through Codeup together,
Yes.
and we were part of the first cohort, which was really exciting. I was a lab associate at the time, and you were one of the students there. And I think you were one of the recipients of the first Codeup scholarships, right?
Yeah, I was. I was actually student number 1 for Codeup before. I don't even know that Jason, Girdley, and Chris really had the full curriculum fleshed out. They knew that it was going to be the lamp stack, and they knew a couple things, they knew what they were going to do, but nothing was super duper official yet. When I met with them in their office back at the Weston Center at the Geekdom there, and I was looking at doing a couple of different programs in Austin because that was all that was available. There wasn't anything in San Antonio or online, which just sounded like a really big pain in the butt. And I don't know if it was Cole or Tex or I don't remember who it was, but someone was like, you should go talk to Girdley and these guys, they're doing a thing. So I met with them, and then after meeting with them a couple of times, was like, yeah, sign me up, I'll do it, because I don't want to move. I want to do a hands-on course, and I wanted to support what they were doing and be a part of it. So yeah, I just kind of signed up and got one of the scholarships and was their poster child for a moment. As they did kind of their very first advertisements for Codeup, and went through the first cohort.
That's so cool. So what was the impetus to want to learn how to code?
Yeah, so like I just kind of mentioned in my intro, I guess I started hanging around Geekdom and met a bunch of people doing really cool things, and just thought it was such a great environment, and it was really fun and exciting. And I was definitely searching for something to do. I hadn't really found a job that I had liked or were really using my skills since graduating in 2010. there weren't many creative jobs available, I guess. And yeah, so I just kind of been not utilizing a lot of my skills and was really looking for something new to do. And then after being welcomed into this, kind of totally new space and community, got really excited about it. Did a 3-day startup weekend, which was just so much fun and 100% got me hooked into wanting to do more. And the more I talked to people, I kind of just realized that if I wanted to do anything with tech and entrepreneurship and all the fun things going on at Geekdom, I should probably learn how to code. And whether or not I was going to make that a career for myself, I wasn't so sure, but I knew that I needed to understand it and have my head around it. And if I did like it, it would also be a great career because it's part of the future, right? Like technology, our future, it's to me, I feel like learning how to code is going to be the replacement for like how we used to all learn Microsoft Word and Excel and all that. So this is the future. I should know this.
That's one of those things like on LinkedIn, like if people say like, oh, this person is really good at Microsoft Word, you're just like, that doesn't tell me anything about anything. Like, who cares? Like, oh, I can use Excel. Wonderful. What else can you do? What can you do with it? But like now, like you're going to put like PHP or Python and JavaScript. Everyone's like, oh, great. Yeah. What else can you do?
I think so, though. I really think that's going to be the case. Like, as we move forward, that everyone's just going to have to know how to do these things. So.
I kind of hope so. I think people will get a lot of value out of being able to learn how to program something, or at least how to build like a small script or just something to automate a particular task and make themselves a little bit more productive. But it does take a specific mindset to make that work. And if I remember correctly, you were one of the better students in that one cohort. Like you did really well in that cohort. And I think, even like Jason and Chris and Michael, just funny, like everyone calls Jason and Chris by their first names, but no one ever calls Girdley by his first name. It's just funny. But yeah, like they were all really happy with your progression and the amount of stuff you were able to take in and learn and be able to help other students as well. So I do remember that. I do remember you doing really well. So like post Codeup then, what were some of the kind of like the roles, or like what has been your career till now? Like how did you get to where you are from Codeup to now?
Yeah, so that path is a lot more windy. And I think that, so right after Codeup, I had several interviews coming out of the program after the demo day, which is really great and exciting for a variety of different companies. Some that were, I guess they were all mostly on the smaller company end, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my new skills. And I had fallen so in love with the community at Geekdom that I was really hesitant to leave it at that point. I really wanted to see if I could find a startup to work with, or just be part of the community all the time, like 24/7, not just as like a after my day job kind of thing.
Yeah. Hey, can I say something really quickly?
Sure.
I just remembered something. Do you remember Def Logics?
Totally. Yeah, I interviewed with them.
Yes, you did. You were their top pick. I was their second pick. They're like, if it doesn't work out with Leslie, we'll go with Omar. And like, yeah, like I'm serious. I'm like, oh well, at least I'm number 2 to Leslie. Like that's a good thing. Sorry, I just remembered that because you sound like you would interview at all these different places. Like, hey, you also interviewed Def Logics. I remember because they were there at demo day.
They were.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. But yeah, so I really wanted to stay within the community, and I also really wanted to still utilize, my graphic design and communication design skill set. Especially as I learned how to code, I realized the value of having that for UI and UX, and just a lot of different pieces that were difficult to find. I think it is still pretty difficult to find someone who can understand like graphic design, communication design, and putting that together with UI, UX, and has that kind of both of those backgrounds. And they can actually write the code for it too if you needed it to. So I thought I found myself in a bit of a unique spot there, at least within our community too. There weren't many people that were doing design and UI, UX kind of all together, could do all those things. So I ended up freelancing a bit and working with Heavy, which was a treat. Those guys are just wonderful. learned so much from them in so many ways. And as I was working with them, I met Guillermo and Arturo of Nebulab. And after working with them a little bit, they asked me to join the company and as a co-founder. So then I joined Nebulab, and we were building a software solution to help life scientists manage and collaborate on their data, which was really, really cool and fascinating. And these days, I'm like, man, if we had succeeded, that would be a really fun place to be right now with COVID.
Oh
But
boy,
uh,
yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so I started working with them too, and we ended up getting accepted into the Techstars Cloud Accelerator in 2015. So we went through that, which was a really amazing experience. Learned so much and met so many wonderful people along the way. And a little while after that, I want to say about maybe 6 months after the program. I'm not sure the timeline exactly, but I just still wasn't very happy for some reason. Couldn't even totally figure out why. So I took a step back from the company and traveled for a little while. I did a month-long Amtrak trip around the U.S., which was super fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, and at that point, I decided the right move for me was to like 100% leave the company and just take a step back and do a lot of kind of self-reflection and work to figure out what it is I actually wanted a little bit
Yeah.
more,
Yeah, yeah.
and discovery time for Leslie. I was still quite young, I was still in my early 20s, so feeling a little bit of that bug. And I also went to Africa, which was wonderful. Went with a friend's church with his mission group of some younger girls and kind of helped him with that, which was wonderful. And then I started getting very much into yoga and did yoga teacher training. And so in that process, in that time of my life, I really found that I needed to be doing something that was helping people in a much more direct, hands-on way. And I still very much believe that like technology and building all these new things can do that. Just the position I was trying to do that from wasn't the right fit for me, right? Like being the coder or being the designer wasn't the right way. I need that interaction with people and to really feel that connection and helping them. And then I just still wanted to be in a creative space and, just some other things like that. So I started working at the San Antonio Museum of Art at that point in the education department. That was another big thing, was like, ding, like education matters so much to me. I got to teach at a school in Africa when I was there, and with the yoga teacher training and all of that, I was like, is education and learning. I'm just like a lifelong learner who just loves to learn all the time. So I think that's actually my newer top Clifton strength, which was interesting. I redid it and it changed.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah,
That's
so
cool.
yeah,
I mean, because they do say like that stuff does change over time.
totally, it definitely did. There was like only one achiever was the only one that was the same in the top five, which was funny. Um, but yeah, and so then I worked at the San Antonio Museum of Art. I started off teaching our school programs, and then started managing some of our school programs there, and then took over managing our public programs, which was super fun. The museum's such a special place, and that role, all those roles were so just special. I don't know. I feel like they're the kind of, every day when I would work there, I would just feel like, I think this is like supposed to be a job you do when you retire, because this is just too, like it was just too sweet. Um, but I did feel like I needed to do something a little bit more, because I was like, I shouldn't be in a job where I feel like this should be what I do when I retire.
Yeah.
And so I ended up working for the City of San Antonio's Arts and Culture Department for about a year, as a next step, because I thought that would be a bit more also in that direction of service to my community and to more people in the arts community. I had also been on the board of the Artist Foundation in San Antonio for about a year and a half, which gave artists grants to make new work, which was really exciting. So was doing that, and then this spring, when COVID hit, I got furloughed from the city, which was totally like a blessing in disguise kind of moment, because I wasn't happy at the city at all. I was already
Yeah.
looking for kind of new opportunities at the end of last year, and beginning of this year, beginning of 2020, I had missed, I think a lot of what I was missing was actually just being around creative, innovative, talented people that just like were changing stuff and moving at fast paces and like had a lot of freedom and were just like attacking things, that I was kind of missing that heart that the Geekdom community really has, and the entrepreneur community really has. So my good friend Kate Kinnison, we actually met in yoga training. She's an administrator in the Office of Innovation at the city, and she reached out to me when Geekdom posted the job for the CivTech program manager, and she was like, hey, this might be something you would like to do. It's kind of a bit of what you used to do, mixed with all the skills that you had before. Because like program management and educational pieces and tech pieces and like, civic pieces where you're all about like doing cool things to help the city. So it checked all my boxes really. And so now I'm here. Now I'm at Geekdom. And since our dear Joyce Dooley just left the Geekdom staff, so there's a to fill the other programs. So I'm just stepping into those too. So it's all good. And it's been so wonderful to work with all the entrepreneurs again and like get back into like pitches and, investment stuff. And just, I don't know, there's just so much that's been like, whoa, like all these flashbacks too, where I hadn't really been around the community for a couple years there when I was at the museum. And so it's been so fulfilling and lovely to just reconnect and see the growth. Like so much growth happened in like 3 or 4 years when I wasn't really around, just overall downtown, like in the tech district. And just, it's crazy. It's great. I love being back. I'm super happy.
That's wonderful. There's something that keeps kind of like popping in my mind while you were talking about your history and your job history. It's that everything that you did, it's totally fine, right? Going from one position, like I'm looking for something, I go here, I have high hopes, I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not happy here, I'm gonna go somewhere else. That transition is 100% okay. And I'm not just telling this, for your benefit. I'm telling it for my benefit too, because my history is very much kind of like choppy, right? It's like you're reading Steinbeck or something like that. It's like very short and short sentences that kind of like give a choppy style to it. And the reason why I say it's okay is because we have the opportunity as young professionals to go from one place to another and to identify where is it that we can provide the most value. Mm-hmm. It's not so much like I'm here working to earn a paycheck. For me, it's where can I provide the most value and have the greatest impact with the skills that I have gained and learned throughout my career. I'm not sure if you agree with that. I mean, you are nodding your head, but I mean, in terms of that idea, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that stay at one position and they don't have that same feeling, right? They don't get that same. They're not sure if they could ever find that sort of happiness in what they're doing or what they're looking for. So for a person like that, and career that you and I both have had, what sort of advice would you give that person who's kind of like, who feels stuck, but they want to look for something, but they're not sure if they should or not sure if they can? What sort of advice would you give them?
I would say that, I think drilling down to kind of the purpose behind what you're doing, which I guess is kind of what you're, in a way, what you're talking about too, is like, for me, when I'm looking at my job, it's more about the impact I can create with my job. And is that impact an impact I really want to make, like on the world as an individual? And really, like, it comes down to pretty simple things like, well, I just need to be helping people, right? And I want to make the world better, and all these kind of cliche things. But I think that's really huge. But I also think that something that's been really wonderful to see for me personally is like, so many of my skills are so transferable. And I think that's true for pretty much everyone. You just maybe you're not thinking about them in that way, but I think there's also a new kind of way of framing like 21st century workforce skills. It's shifting. It's a big shift. And there's actually like a couple companies that I know of at Geekdom that are kind of talking about this and working on this. And I think it's really exciting. But, it's not so much like, did you spend, not for every job is it going to be super duper technical. Some jobs are, obviously, but the super non-technical skills, like those are very transferable. So if there's a company or an organization that you find really appealing and interesting, and maybe like you don't fit the exact like bullet pointed thing in that job description, like still apply, like still research it, still reach out and just make connections, because you might be the perfect fit for that and they may want you there. So I think there's always different things to explore that maybe aren't the first thing that come to mind based on like your resume or what you think are your skill sets, but that your skills can be totally transferable too. And I think at the end of the day, it's a lot more about if you get it and you want it, right? Like if you understand the thing that's trying to be done, you want to do it and you have capacity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like bigger than any of the other things that you see on resumes and such, I suppose, or in job listings. And I also think keeping an open mind and an open heart, I know that sounds cheesy too, but I even like when the job popped up for the CivTech program manager, like I got excited about it, but I was also like, oh my gosh, though, like I kind of like left that world for a little while. This is going to be kind of weird coming back, like all this stuff. There's so many new faces, there's a little bit of this like intimidation factor, but I was like, no, this sounds awesome. And it'd be so much fun. Just like apply and do it. Right. So it's kind of knocking through any of that, like the intimidation or fear or like questioning of the thing, because you just don't know. And I'm also a big believer in that the right things just happen, right? If you are open and you are putting yourself out there, like the right things do come your way and follow through.
That's really interesting, including the bit about fear that you talked a little bit about, where, sometimes a person might not want to leave a particular position because, of financial concerns or fear of not being able to make the same amount of money, or fear of making less money, or fear of, maybe I'm not going to like it, or it's I'm not good enough for it, all these things. And I think one of the things that, and I think you would agree, like both you and I have learned from being a part of this community and watching so many people try things, and they're not always successful, but they still do it. It's that fear of failure doesn't really exist. It's more like, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go into the unknown, and I'm not going to think about what if I fail. I'm going to think about what will it take for me to be successful, right? What is it going to take for me to build a product that has a good market fit? What is it going to take for me to build a plan and to keep my business running, to hire people, to maintain those hires, to build up the people around me? How do I give back? Like, it's all, how do I continue to build, as opposed to what do I do if I fail, right? And I think, thinking about, what if I fail, that's a key part of like, what am I going to do to remain successful? Because what you want to do is not avoid failure, but do everything you can to succeed. But from a security perspective, of course, bad things do happen. So what do you do in that time? That's called the business continuity plan. Look it up. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's a certain mindset. It's a particular attitude that it's not like I am more brave than somebody else. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's more, I am looking at this as an opportunity for success, not an opportunity for failure. And I mean, any sort of comments about that? I feel like I'm preaching.
No, I would totally agree. Yeah, I think it's just it's that shifting your perspective, which is most things in life, is just shifting your perspective, right? To make it that I'm seeking an opportunity here. It's about that positive spin, and it's about that openness. And I also think like realizing that there are so many opportunities that really are out there, that if something's not the right fit, then okay, you do it for a year and then you look for the next thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do think, of course, like not everyone is always in such a great position, and for other various personal reasons. And I do like acknowledge that, and know that there can be difficult decisions where maybe you can't actually pursue something right away, right? But yeah, I think it's just that positive thinking and framing it just as you said, for sure. Opportunity.
Yeah. And that's a key word for this conversation, I feel. So let me take the opportunity to ask you another question. And you've talked a lot about the things that you're passionate about. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that. So kind of like what wakes you up in the morning? What gets you out of bed? What keeps you up at night? What is something that you think a lot about, and how does that kind of fit in with the passions that you have?
Yeah, I would say so. So one really fun experience that I've had, another like learner experience and opening up opportunity kind of moment, was so my husband that I've been married 3 years now. He and his family are Jewish, and when my oldest stepson was about to have his bar mitzvah, I would always go to temple for like high holidays and stuff with them, and was kind of hanging out doing the things, but didn't really learn much about Judaism. And then when my stepson was starting to prepare for his bar mitzvah, we were going to a lot more services. I was learning a lot more, and I was much more engaged. And I decided to take classes for a whole year in preparation to convert to becoming Jewish. And then I ended up becoming Jewish last year in December,
Wow.
which
That's
was really
cool.
exciting.
Yeah.
So, and one of the biggest, or one of the kind of, I'm going to say like a value sets or something of Judaism. It's a concept rather. There's two that really drew me in, or that are really important to me, which is tikkun midot, which means improving one's character, and tikkun olam, which is repairing the world. And I feel like you have to do one in order to do the other, kind of, And as that kind of learner, I guess what keeps me up at night all the time, or what I actually sleep really well, but
that is what Brian said. The first, yeah,
meditation, yoga.
yeah,
But
that's so
with
funny.
with those concepts, like I feel like part of what I'm always seeking is improving myself, improving my character. And whether that be through work or things I do on my own at home, I'm always trying to figure out a way to be better. And then in turn, in that framework of like repairing the world, is where can I be of use? Where can I help? Where can I make it better? In whatever way possible, right? So I think I'm always kind of seeking those opportunities, both to make sure that I'm always working on myself, so that I can be the best person possible that I can be, in order to help do other things in the world that make it better. Well, I know that's really like vague and out there, but
No, it's
I think
beautiful.
it's so simple to me, because there are things that come up all the time that can be really small, like a donation or volunteering, or like just tiny things that really do add up and matter. That are just, I think I approach um, life with those two things like at the top of mind. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's definitely a beautiful thing. And I love the story of how you converted to Judaism. I mean, it was driven by your husband, and then even further driven by your stepson, who's, going to his bar mitzvah, and then you taking the time, the year-long class to make that full conversion, and now like that's a part of your life, and that has also helped kind of define some tenets that you follow very closely, right? I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, I think that's wonderful. It's you're following it as a principle and as a philosophy, and it helps center you, right? Like, it kind of keeps you like, if I'm going to make a decision, these are the things or the principles that I always look towards to help make that decision, right? That's a beautiful thing. I think that's really wonderful. So good for you. I'm really happy for you on that.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess yeah, that's like just a big part of me overall, is that self-improvement. And it's always been there. Like I've always just wanted to learn about different things in order to be better. And that's what the yoga and everything like came into. So
So tell me more about the yoga. I mean, so This interview will be shown like after the whole Geekdom ninth birthday party bash thing.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but you are going to be doing yoga for gamers, and
Yeah.
I'm really curious about what that means and what that entails. Because usually when you're gaming, you're not like doing a downward dog or the warrior pose at the same time. You got to have your hands on mouse and keyboard to get things going. So tell me more about this yoga for gamers. I'm interested.
Yeah, well, so yoga is so much more than just the asana or the postures, right? I know we all like think of that, like we think of downward dog and plank and all the warrior and all the poses, but yoga is really, I mean, there's a whole like philosophy behind yoga. There's the 8 limbs of yoga. There's so many things you can go like really deep into yogic philosophies and or ways of just thinking and being. But there's also like pranayama, which is breath work, and meditation obviously that comes into play. So I do want to get like everyone into like a good state of mind before their marathon of gaming to raise money for charity, for our children's hospital. So I'll probably do a little bit of like breath work, and then of course I will do some poses or stretches that are like good for wrists and hands and necks, and like that's the angle I was going for, was
Nice.
everyone like stretched out and ready to go, and maybe teaching you some things to do throughout the day so you can like stay calm and focused and happy and grounded while you game.
Yeah, whenever John sent me that spreadsheet and I saw that on there, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds awesome. Like, I cannot wait. That sounds so much fun.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
that is really cool. Okay, I mean that was more of a selfish thing because I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. But let's talk about. I mean, so 2013, way back when. How did you find Geekdom? How did you arrive at that doorstep and start this journey that is your life or your professional life and personal life too?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, it had a huge piece in my personal life. Yeah, so I was working downtown at a real estate appraisal firm doing just like administrative work while I was still kind of trying to freelance with graphic design and just figure things out. And my good friend that I'd made at work, a colleague of mine, was friends with Zach and Jeremy at Monk's Toolbox. I don't really know how she met them. I think she was just really involved in like downtown things. And so, yeah, she was like, hey, you want to come with me into this Fermented Friday thing? And I went, and that's how I met everyone, which is kind of crazy. But it's usually people and just networking, right? At the end of the day, that leads you to a lot of these special things. So,
That's true. That is very true. So here's another question then. I mean, you have gotten a ton of value from being a part of Geekdom. I mean, I cannot emphasize that enough that there's a lot of value that you've gotten from it. But if you had to condense it down to a couple of things, and what would you tell somebody? What is the value of being a part of that community?
um, I think one, it is having a community, right? Like there is this entire new net of people that really are there to support and help. Like I'd never felt so welcomed into a totally new space before, and I think that's very much still the case today. Um, there's just so many people who are right off the bat willing to be like, oh, well, like you should talk to so and so, or let me sit down and meet with you on Thursdays if you want, and like break down like the internet and how it works. I mean, like just because like volunteering. So I think it's that there really is a community. Like when we say community, I think that's very true. I also think opportunity, which has been a great word we keep using, but there's so much opportunity at Geekdom. Like you just, again, with the same, like the networking and community, um, you're always meeting new people. You're always learning about new things. They're always learning about you. And I think everyone, a lot, or most of the people in the community have this mindset of like, when they're meeting someone and talking to them, we don't just go like, oh, cool, like, awesome, high five, nice to meet you. It's always a follow up, right? There's always like, oh, but you should talk to so and so. That's so awesome that you do that. Have you heard about this company here, or have you like heard about this opportunity over here? Like everyone's just always trying to like plug you into the next thing and help you grow. And I do think that too. Maybe that's another good thing. Growth. I feel like Geekdom has spurred so much growth for me. Just everything that I've done. through Geekdom and has happened because of being a part of the Geekdom community has led to so much growth, not just with my career, but, you know, personally too. When you're learning so much, you're meeting so many different people and they all influence you in different ways, and build your character in different ways. And yeah, I think that's another big one. A lot of growth.
So what would be a way for somebody to give back in the community? I mean, you've given a lot back to the community. I mean, a lot. And I think way back when you also did some of those yoga instruction things, I think it was like on Thursdays or something like that in the mornings, or like during lunchtime, people would like bring their yoga mats down to the event center and people would just be doing yoga in the event center. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
into a little bit of that.
yeah, you know, the times before COVID when people could do stuff together. um but yeah, like what would you say to somebody who's new to the community or is new to this concept of being helpful or giving first? What would be a way that somebody could do that and be productive within the community?
Yeah, I think that one of the big things to remember is that you always have something to give and you always have something to share, even if you feel like you're a newbie or you're not an expert or whatever. Like, you still know something unique or know many unique things and have a lot to offer, right? And you see things in different ways. We all have different perspectives. We all absorb information in different ways. We all experience everything differently, you know. So I feel like remembering that you do always have something to share and to offer is a great place to start. But then I also think just you start small. Like, is it just getting coffee with someone? Well, virtual coffee with someone
Yeah.
these days. You know, just taking the time to just talk to someone new in the community and really learn about them and share things about you with them. I think that that's a great way to give back, you know, because just giving yourself and just really being a part of the community is the best thing to do, especially if you're starting out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm part of a new company and the whole company is remote. And we have like an office in Tel Aviv, in London, and in Boston, and Ottawa. And I'm over here in San Antonio, Texas, all by my lonesome. And what they had, there's like this Slack app called Donut. And what it does is, I think once every week, it'll connect you to somebody randomly within the Slack group and say, hey, do you want to meet this person for 30 minutes? And here are some dates. And so you can just like click on, I want this date. And then it'll send a calendar invitation to both people. And so they can meet in like in a Zoom call together. Which I think is like really cool because you get to meet different people in the company that normally you wouldn't be able to meet. Like there's about almost 400 of us in the company, and they're all over the place. So it's difficult to meet everybody and to see them. And so I kind of feel like that's something that would be at Geekdom, like at least right now, right? It is hard to meet new people within the Geekdom community, within the Geekdom space. The Slack channel has picked up, which I'm very happy about. It's not just me trolling people. It's other people talking about interesting things and getting engagement. But I think it would be cool if there was a way for people to be able to meet each other and to have like these, usually what used to be serendipitous meetings within the space, but now they can just be serendipitous meetings online, you know? I don't know.
We've been looking at so many different like virtual platforms and, you know, just trying to think about how to create, because that's the piece. I mean, we can do like workshops and speaker series, you know, webinar type things that like that's easy, right? But finding that way of connecting that is the beauty, like in the gem, like the heart of geekdom is just, it's really hard to figure out a way to
It
do that
is. It
virtual.
is.
And so I'll definitely look at that because we're looking at anything. But that sounds really cool. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's called Donut. Yeah, Donut. It is pretty cool. Because like the speaker series and the workshops, like all that is really cool. Like that's all great content and it's all driven by people within the community too, which is wonderful. But then like what happens like before you get to the event and what happens afterwards, you know, like I feel like that's where the magic happens. Like the content is what brings people in the door, but where they get the real value is when they meet each other and talk to each other and talk about the ideas that they just learned about or the different different content that they just consumed. That's the stuff that it's difficult to capture, especially during, COVID-19. But we won't let that take it away from us. We won't let this disease bring us down. We will rise again. Oh man, sorry about that. That was just that was fascist Omar coming out. Excuse me.
No worries.
Very cool. So my last question for this interview is, who would you like to see be interviewed next on Meet a Geek? What are some people that you find interesting in the community that you'd like to see highlighted?
We have a newer member who's been working at Geekdom, like in the office every day for the past few months, and he's wonderful. His name is Max. I think he'd be really wonderful to bring on. He's from Israel, and he was trying to figure out where to move to in the US, and was drawn to Texas, and then looking at Texas was drawn to San Antonio because of Geekdom. So
interesting.
Yeah, and he's just a lovely person. He's one that if everyone was back in this space, he'd have 1,000 new friends because he's just so wonderful and so smart and so talented. And I would love to get to know him more too in this type of setting and just hear from him. And as a new geek and a new member of the Geekdom community, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Please connect me to him, because I think that is a really cool story, because that's not something I hear very often. It's either like Houston or Dallas or Austin. There's a lot of stuff over in those different cities, and also really good Chinese food in Houston, but don't tell anybody. And he comes all the way from Israel. He's like, I like Texas. I like San Antonio. I like Geekdom. It's just kind of narrows it down. It's like you're looking at a Google map and looking at the earth, and it's like, let me pick somewhere, and just slowly zooms in into downtown San Antonio, which I think is, I just, that whole idea I think is really cool. I'm really glad that he's here and he's found some value in it. So I'd love to talk with him and learn more about that.
For sure.
All right, cool. Well, Leslie, thank you so much for being a part of this and giving us your insight and your positivity and the beautiful mind that you have, and taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for doing this, Omar. It's been really great to watch all of the ones that you've been putting together, and then to participate and reconnect with you. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it has been. I'm really glad we got this chance to talk.
Yeah.
And thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. And if you have other suggestions for new videos, please go ahead and leave them in the comments as well. So, as always, be helpful, and we will see you all next time.